Welcome to the family with
Hackmaster Ralph Bash MD.
Alex Barnard Rasmussen.
And Andy Barnard.
and Catherine Brandt, maybe, but we no one knows. But I would say
Exactly
at
what she sounds
53, there's no way she's going to get here. She wouldn't be that late, would she?
She would.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, she would. Oh, never mind. All right. I just
She
found
would.
something out. Thank you to Michael Bryant, who just sent this over to me because I was not aware of this at all. Dan Barrero posted heavy heart today. Estimable defense attorney Joe Friedberg passed away yesterday afternoon after a battle with cancer. Fearless, fascinating friend to the show. Friend, we are losing too many of our finest right now. And then Mark Rosen after that, K-fan, of course. So sad. Joe was an original. Joe Friedberg was a very good friend of mine. I did not know he had died. Nobody had let me know that. But he died yesterday afternoon, so I suppose it's about as early as I was going to find out anyway. But we used to get together with Joe at a place. What's that Italian place again up by Louis' place down in Florida?
I have no idea.
Oh, what is that place called? It's really, really good. But we used to get together with Joe Friedberg, his lovely wife, and have dinner down there, on vacation or whatever, dinner up here. Joe was a really good friend of Ron Rosenbaum and people like that. But Joe, I did not know he passed away. Joe was always very, very funny. He's a great guy to me. Very, very good attorney. So I just found that out just now because, like I said, Michael Bryant sent me the message. And thank you again, Michael, because I didn't realize that happened. Joe, we'll miss you, pal. He was an unusual fella, I will tell you that. In a good way, I mean.
Okay.
Right?
God rest his soul. Yeah. Good guy.
There you have it. No question about it. There's one other thing I want to bring up to you guys at the beginning of the show. That I talked about this on the morning show as well, but this does not surprise me. I've been talking about it on both shows for quite some time now. Sorry if reporting on this stresses you out, but a new poll found more people than ever are actively avoiding watching the news on television because it's too stressful.
Yep.
Not a surprise.
Yeah.
Not at all. There's not a surprise at all.
Nope.
Not just here, but in other countries too. 39% of people worldwide said they sometimes or often avoid reading or watching the news. That's up from 20% when they did the same survey in 2017. Experts think all the sad news we've seen out of Ukraine and the Middle East lately are a big factor. Well, we get burned out by constant updates on the pandemic. Only 46% of people say they're very or extremely interested in the news, now down from 63%. I think a big part of it in America is this outright hatred we have of one another.
Yep.
Just because of our different political beliefs. Why you would hate somebody because they didn't believe the same thing you believe politically makes no sense to me.
I was thinking about this morning. I think that politics has become a lot of people's religion.
Oh, yes, there's no doubt. They want to get
Yeah.
rid of religion, and instead they put that in as their religion.
They have their so the Republicans have Trump as their pastor, and the Democrats have Biden as their pastor, and they just listen to that. And boy, that's dogma to them, and that's kind of what it is. There's no middle ground or understanding or tolerance of another religion or another ideas,
Right.
and it's that creates a huge stress, along with the depression of what's going on in the world. The terrible war. Well, this war is going on all the time, but they just report. They have 24/7 reporting of all the wars and all,
Yep.
and they're not even reporting on all of them. I mean, there's genocides.
No,
going
most
on all
of them
the
are
time.
completely ignored.
Yeah, most of them are just who cares? Well, they're in Africa. Who cares about Africa?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, it's interesting because I've been talking on this show, on the morning show, quite a bit about the fact that I don't watch national news anymore. I tried again yesterday. It was on for 10 seconds, and I went, I can't watch this. It's just so negative and hateful. I mean, you want to talk about creating hatred between the two parties. It's television that's done it. It's national television has created all that hatred. They've talked people into, you need to stand up to the other guy, and you need to do this, and you can't tolerate one thing. I mean, what happened to working together?
Reaching across the aisle.
Yeah, what happened to it?
Yeah, they put a chain link fence down the aisle.
Andy and Alex, your generation's different. What do you think? Why can't they just stop trying to shove it down our throats how much we should hate one another on the national news?
Well, it used to get them a lot of money.
Yeah, not anymore though, huh?
Not anymore.
Good. I'm glad
I
to
don't
see that.
think.
Well, I
Let's
know their
see.
numbers are way down. CNN's numbers are way down, and I think Fox's are too. I'm not sure, but I think that's true. It's unwatchable
Well, CNN still has, let's see, $1.7 billion in revenue.
based on how many souls, how many bodies.
That I don't
Oh,
know.
I shouldn't say souls. That's too religious.
There you go.
Can't have that.
Yeah, their revenue is about the same as it's always been.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because I heard it was way down.
Well, this only goes back to 2016, but
Yeah. It is
Oh, wait.
unwatchable.
this is TV's tuning to news programming during prime news time.
Yeah, but that could be local news as well.
Average audience, economics. Here we go. Revenue is up. But then again, money is also worthless now. So
What do you mean? Just because if you're a millionaire, it doesn't mean anything anymore?
yeah, let's adjust this for inflation, shall we? Inflation calculus. So this goes back to 2006.
2006. Okay.
They were making $822 million in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that is worth. Oh, I have to do 822,000 because it doesn't like that gigantic value. I'm not going to extrapolate from there. That'll be 1.3 billion. So their revenue is still up.
Yeah, but it's probably not. I think 1.3 compared to 2006 800 is about the same number, isn't it?
No, I mean 1.3 is what they made in 2006 adjusted for inflation. They made 1.7 in 2022.
Okay, yeah.
So yep, they're still making money.
So it's probably at 1.3 as compared to 1.7. They might be making less money because of the value of the dollar now. I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Ralph, that now basically if you own a house and 2 cars, you're a millionaire.
Wow.
I mean, isn't that amazing? I just think because these houses, what the average house now is like $450,000.
Oh yeah,
Something like that?
It's just gone way up.
And cars now are what, 45, 50,000 bucks,
Well,
or if not more.
A goodly portion of them are over 100.
Over 100.
How do you put it?
I know
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah, just crazy kind of numbers for a car.
Well, so if you own a $450,000 house and a couple of cars, you're 2/3 of the way to being a millionaire.
MSRP, let's see, for the F-150, which I believe is still the best-selling vehicle in the country,
Yeah.
year over year. Let's see. Starts at 37,000. So that's
Okay.
not too bad.
Okay.
But the F-250, when you get the 250, 350, they're 70 to 80. I looked at them on a lot a while ago.
F-250 starts at 45,000.
Okay,
But that's with no
that's
the lowest trim level
I
that
don't
no
even-
one buys.
I don't even know if they have factory air on those.
Yeah, for real.
So yeah, the stuff is really expensive. I mean, they do. Yeah, they put 30,000 extra stuff on the F-250
sure
in a
do.
second.
Well, and also, you're not just paying MSRP anymore. There's 100 different little fees that go into it. I mean, there's
Right.
tax.
Right.
There's like we bought a Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid, and we specifically bought one that was like 2 years out of date but still new. So we got a bunch of money off of it, and it was like an additional $10,000 just for all the you got to get the coatings and the protections and everything like that because it's good for the warranty. Because warranties are something you want. We didn't get an extended warranty, I don't believe, but it's like, you get this stuff that coats the outside of your car, and then you get a warranty on the paint, and you get some stuff for the windshield, you get a warranty on the windshield and so forth. And, we do drive on dirt roads, so it's like, you never know when a rock's going to chip your windshield. But so it's like, there's an additional 10 grand on top of the MSRP right there. And then not to mention the taxes, which are probably another at least $10,000.
Registration fees, which is another tax.
Yeah. You got, license, registration. Yeah. Cars are not cheap anymore. And this is, like I said, with 2 years out of date. Plus we got a bunch of tax rebates for buying a plug-in hybrid.
Oh,
But
cool.
it was still more than my Nissan Kicks was by quite a bit.
I remember when I was a kid, you have to remember I grew up very poor, but I remember many, many years ago, my father came home with a new car and my mother had a fit because he bought it for $1,500.
Wow. I know.
for a new car, $1,500. I think it was a Ford of some kind, if I remember right.
Probably was a Ford. When would that have been?
1960, maybe 58, 59, 60.
1960. That car today is worth $16,000, so still pretty cheap.
It only goes for $16,000.
Well, inflation adjusted, that would be the price.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I mean, but still, 16. If you can get a brand new car for $16,000 today,
Yeah.
you're in
I
luck.
don't know if there are any.
Let's see.
Oh, there might be.
You know what?
Cheapest car. Let's see.
Andy was a 56. I just remembered 1956 Ford. That's what it was. There you go.
Was it new though?
Yeah,
That was the problem. It's brand new.
brand new,
Mhm.
$1,500, man.
Let's see. It looks like, according to this list here, the cheapest car is this. Of course, it's going to make me click through 28 pages, which I'm not going to do.
Yes.
Here we go. The Mitsubishi Mirage, $18,000.
That's the cheapest
Wow.
car out there.
Yep.
That's a nice
apparently.
car too, isn't it? I think.
I mean, it looks a lot like what I bought actually.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Nissan Kicks is number 8 on here for
There
the
you
cheapest cars there is. Most of this is the list is like a third Nissan, which makes sense.
So
Nissan Versa being the cheapest Nissan.
There's a bunch of other ones that are 3-wheel cars. There's a handful of
Well,
those.
yeah, I don't know if
They're
those really
small production.
Count.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're less expensive or more expensive.
Probably more because there's economy of scale kind of thing going
Yep.
on.
One of the greatest lines in movie history is what was a movie called? It was Peter Falk and God, what was the name of that movie? The In-Laws.
Oh, yeah.
It was called The In-Laws. Let me just tell you something. What's the world going to be like when a 6-pack of Budweiser is $1,200? $1,200, $200 a can for beer. There you
That's
go.
right.
Honest to God, it's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, I suppose it's always been like that, though. That things are 10 times more expensive than they were when 50 years ago. It's probably always been that way, right?
Oh, sure. Inflation's been pressure, but it's been a little heavier the past 10 years. I
It
think.
has, but I mean, it ebbs and flows. I mean, if you look into the history of Roman currency, they debased that currency all the time.
Yeah, they
It
did.
used to be
didn't
pure gold, and then they put a little bit more copper in it, and a little more until it was almost all copper because gold just became too valuable.
they? Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. No question about that. But yeah, so does any of that stuff surprise you that people are they don't want to watch the news because it's too stressful? They don't want to buy anything. It's too expensive. I mean, the whole deal.
I felt that stress was 25 years ago, and I stopped watching the news
Yeah,
because it was just
I
it was
understand.
stressful, and it was too much to take in, or not so much too much to take in, but it's just to cause this angst about something you have no control over, absolutely no control over.
Everyone worry about what's going on 10,000 miles away.
Yeah, I mean,
What am I going to do about it?
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? If,
Mhm.
And if it shows up here, well, then you worry about it. That's the kind of thing, is it? And
Right.
and then the fear mongering is what's going to happen here? They're going to invade. We're going to be invaded here pretty soon.
It's been what?
They
250
yeah.
years. We have not gotten invaded once. We've got a pretty good track record going.
Yeah, but that's the other thing, is that we're going to have a conflagration with China. We're going to have they fan these flames that this is what's going to happen. They do this prediction, and that in addition to the bad news adds to the angst. So I don't listen to these people anymore.
Well, even if we do get into open war with China, I mean, conflagration is the correct word there, because it's not going to be Chinese troops marching into your town. It's going to be blink and your town isn't there anymore. So, just don't worry about it too much.
That's right.
You're not going to be able to stop what's happening if it does happen, but I think they would be very, very stupid to do that because their economy is completely dependent on exports.
It is.
If
Well,
everyone hates them, they don't get any exports,
Right.
and there goes China, and they know it.
well, they're trying to take over the world economy from the United States of America, and I guess they're having some.
They are succeeding.
They are succeeding. Yeah, they are absolutely. So I don't know what does that mean for us?
No, but like I said, I mean, it's kind of a good thing because if their economy is based on everyone getting along with them, then
No, that's
war
good.
basically destroys their country. Any war at all, and that's why they haven't moved. They haven't moved on Taiwan.
Yeah,
They haven't moved on, North Korea, South Korea. They haven't moved on anyone because it's like they're in a good place. Why? They're growing so economically so quickly. Like why why change what you're doing?
Well, they're growing very, very fast. There's no doubt about that. So I guess we'll, just keep an eye on that whole situation and keep moving forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all these stories are popping up. You guys talking about Ellen DeGeneres is coming to town.
Oh, good. Is she gonna do stand up?
I think so. She's trying to break in again, from what I understand, because not a lot of people like her anymore. I don't know I guess she's very, very hard to work with.
All she has to do is make Finding Dory 2, and she'll be back on top.
What is Finding Dory? What is that?
It's the sequel to Finding Nemo.
Oh, okay.
Dory is the character that Ellen played.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. So do you see it, Alex?
Of course I did.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't think Finding Dory was nearly as good as Finding Nemo, but it was still, it was good.
Yeah, it was still really good. But
I wonder if she has any Anne Heche material.
Oh my God, Anne Heche, and I forgot all about that. Ellen DeGeneres and Anne Heche.
Lindsay and I watched that. We watched that video. We watched the live feed, and it was Stu at KTLA in the helicopter. He says, we're just arriving on the scene where a car is driven in the front of a home, and it's completely buried inside the home, and the home is now on fire.
Yep.
And we watched that whole thing and watched them finally go in. They couldn't get the fire out, and this car was in there for 20 minutes, smoke and everything like that. And finally, they got a chain on this car and got one of the rescue cranes to pull the car out of the house, out of the front of the house. Got it out. They took the driver out. I think the passenger side, it was sort of obscured. They didn't know that, and they said, "Oh, here's the passenger wheeling," and they wheeled this passenger out. And right as they got to the ambulance, the passenger sat up in the on the stretcher. You could see their back, and it was clearly a woman, just completely burnt and black and soot covered. And I said, that person is not going to do well. Is that they trashed their lungs and they're burnt. So finally they laid him back down, put him in there. And then the news came out that it was Anne Heche, that she had driven a high rate of speed. She was high on something, and right into this thing, burned up. And then her publicist said, "Oh no, she's fine. She's going to be just fine. She's going to recover." And I said, "Nope."
What's the general rule? You subtract your age from 100, and if your burn percentage is above that, then
it's something like that.
It's something like that.
no.
It's something like that.
Yeah, you subtract
what's
your
that?
age from 100, and then if you've got burns over more than that percentage of your body, then there's like no chance you're going to make it. I don't know how real that is. It sounds like it's probably,
Well, the risks are just so much greater for infection.
It's all
for
infection,
fluid shift, for cardiovascular problems. I mean, they're just
the
when you get a
shock.
burn, it is just it is a horrible kind of a thing to recover. But she would, that was a nasty thing. But so I shouldn't bring it up. No, she's not going to have material on Anne.
I would hope not.
But Ellen DeGeneres is very creative, and she does a wonderful stand-up. She does great stand-up. So if people can get past that, and there's a great community here that will support her, and they'll go. It might be good. It'll be a great show. I go.
Unbelievable. Listen to this headline. We're talking about people being, not exactly at rest and all the rest of it. People overreacting to everything with their hatred of this and hatred of that and hatred. Story this morning, Star Tribune. Unknown shooter hits Carver County family's dog with fatal gunfire. He opens fire on a dog. You shot a dog?
Big guy, big shot, tough guy.
I mean, how nuts are we getting? I don't get it.
Oh, he was he had a vendetta against the family of some sort.
I mean, Jesus.
I don't get it. But it's one of those things. Is you have this news about this violence that you can't control, or you have no, it's just a terrible thing. I don't know, but that's why you don't watch the news.
Well, I mean, even some of the local stories here, it's like, my God, somebody should have to pay for stirring the pot like this, causing people to be this nuts. And it is the news that's doing it.
Yeah, it sure is.
I mean, why don't they have to pay the price for all this? I mean, this guy thinks he can go ahead and open fire on a dog. Like,
Well, I mean,
what?
generally you go to prison if you do that. So
Yeah,
I
and,
would think so.
and many times the penalties for hurting a pet or an animal are as bad or worse than hurting a child.
Well, I suppose that's very true.
apparently this was a service animal, so there's special laws.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
killing
going to
a
be a
service
problem.
animal, you can go to prison for several years.
For a service animal.
Mhm.
Well, that's so people have no sense. I mean, just no sense at all.
No.
For a service animal.
No, there's no question about that.
You're just depriving somebody of just an aid. I don't know what it was. Was it a service animal?
Apparently they were walking the dog and the dog escaped and they didn't know where it went. So they went home and then the dog came back home bleeding because it had been shot. So we don't know what happened, where it went, what happened to it.
Well, that's unusual for a service dog to escape. So I can't imagine any of the aid dogs running away. That's that they're trained, heavily trained not to do that. So
I just got a text message. Alex, are you planning on staring at your phone the whole show today? A couple of listeners want to know.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing?
I'm filling out my kids' forms we have to change pediatricians because our Dan got a new job and he had different health insurance, and the pediatrician that we went to doesn't cover our health insurance anymore. So we have to change it, and I have to fill out all of these forms.
And you have to do
I'm
it
almost
during
done.
the
I'm
show.
almost done.
Jesus.
I don't know. Talk about not dogs being shot.
Mom stiffs us
Or all this
totally.
hatred of one another.
Mom stiffs us totally. Alex stiffs us by filling out forms.
I'm just.
Fawn's being a disaster
I'm
down at her
almost
end of
done.
the table. She goes, no, I'm
just
not.
like, no.
No, I'm not. No, I just, staying on top of the news is just, I know it's part of the job and all the rest of it, but this stuff is getting pretty interesting. I will say that. Don't you think?
yeah, it gets real interesting. Gets real old.
Okay, we talked to Chris and Bert about this at the end of the morning show, and I wanted to ask you guys the same thing. Catherine and I finished watching the show after the flood. It's a BritBox show from England, and the end of the sixth episode was the end of the show, and we didn't pay much attention to that. Didn't got a lot of stuff going, so we didn't check how many episodes there were. But I guess it's very likely in England, if you're going to do a show, it's going to have 3, 4, 5, or 6 episodes, and that's going to be it.
Yep.
That's just how it goes over there. Are we headed in that direction here? Because when I was a kid, every TV show had, I believe, 26 episodes.
Oh, I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was around there usually. Well, but the thing is, TV shows are longer now.
They are?
Yeah, 44 is a standard show now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it used to be 24.
So
now it's 44.
So it's 44, but then commercials are the additional 16.
Yes. Or that's how it was. That's why, 22 and 44 were the standard formats, 22 for half an hour, 44 for an hour.
Okay.
And they don't really have a reason to stick to that anymore, and most of them don't, to be honest. We watched the new Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's see. How long are those? Because that's new. And it is only on Netflix. So I'm wondering if they stuck to that rule. I'm guessing they did not.
Do they have commercial? Why would they stick to the rule if they don't have commercials?
Tradition, convention.
Okay.
People are suckers for convention. Let's see here.
Well, how long
63 minutes, 48 minutes, 52 minutes. So on Netflix, they're just doing however long they feel is right. It's like a movie, you don't have to maneuver around the programming blocks. But they, for a long time, they were still they put things out on Netflix and they'd be right on 22 or 44 just in case it could be syndicated or whatever. But no one cares about that anymore.
Sure. And how long were these BritBox? How long was this after the flood? How long were those episodes?
They were about 45 to 55 minutes.
Okay.
But it was a really, really good show. And all of a sudden it's just over. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that's how British
Was there a
shows
sequel
are.
kind of thing or just over? Did they just
No,
wrapped it up?
They just wrapped it up.
No, that's one reason I don't watch British TV very much, is because it's always you got 6 episodes and then it's over. The end.
Well, Endeavor, which is an hour and a half long, it's a TV series that's an hour and a half long per episode. but they only do 3 or 4 episodes a year.
Oh yeah, well, it's a movie, three or four movies every year.
Yeah,
Lindsay's
yep.
watching everything, and it's Murders in Eastbrook or some such thing that they. But there are like 23 seasons, and there's I don't know, 18 shows, and they're an hour and a half long. It's a detective series that she's been watching for months, just one right after another, because she seems to see. So
they're now talking in America about extending it to somewhere between 9 and 12 episodes of the stuff that they do. But isn't there going to be? I'm glad there are the 2 and 2 here of our generation and Andy and Alex's generation. Would you guys prefer more shows? Do you like it at 3, 4, 5, 6 shows? I mean, how do you look at that?
If I'm going to watch a show, I want it to be on for a long time.
Right.
There are very few shows that I really ever got into that are like, they were on there for 2 years or whatever, or 1 year. Because it's just like, I don't know, it's not worth the time to get invested in if it's just going to be over.
Yeah, well, you don't know that with broadcast TV, because you could say, oh, I want to watch it. You watch 2 episodes, and they cancel it, or you can watch it and it could be on for 6 years. You don't know that.
Well, that's another reason I rarely get into shows when they're new.
Okay.
Like I can't even I don't get into shows when I never have. Even when I was younger, some of my favorite shows like Friends and Frasier, I didn't get into those until years after they started. I don't think I got into Friends until the second to last season started.
Oh, really?
And then I got into it because I was like, it's got some staying power.
Okay.
Also, I was, arguably too young for it. When did Friends start? 94. So I was, 7 years old.
A little too young.
A little young for Friends.
How long was Friends on?
10 seasons. So by the time it ended, I was 17, 18 years old. So there you go.
Well,
I feel like
technically too young, but
I feel like I would watch them every once in a while if like mom was watching them.
Yeah.
And it was on or something.
I remember watching Star Trek Voyager with mom when I was a kid.
Really?
And again,
I remember
I was
you
like
two.
maybe 10 years old.
I remember you two watching Star Trek together. And I remember mom watching ER.
I don't remember ER. Well, I remember like an episode of ER, but
I never watched ER, but I remember it being like Fawn's gonna watch ER.
Yeah, let's go home and watch ER.
Mom's gonna watch ER.
I couldn't watch ER. I turned on one of the ER or Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy is another one.
One of those sort of things.
Okay.
And there was there was a doctor in the closet with one of the nurses, and I thought to myself, where was I when I was a resident?
Yeah, what was going on?
How did I miss out on this in the closet?
I haven't slept in 3 days. It's time to get busy.
Going on? Yeah.
What's your opinion on House? Because that's, I think, the best medical show
really good.
that's
I
ever
don't know.
been.
Well, they just portray a doctor as being a jerk. And
well, yeah, of course, House is extremely unrealistic. I mean,
but they portray a physician as being a jerk. Yes. I mean, that's the kind of thing, is that so that you think, oh, all physicians are jerks to the staff and things like that.
Well, but they portray House
some are.
But some are everybody. Yes, like no matter what.
So are some radio broadcasters.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
He points right at me. He pointed right at me.
You saw it?
No, so the people, that's when it's your profession, you don't want people to would say cast aspersions. I mean, that's kind of what it was. It was just, this guy's a jerk. He's always brilliant. Oh, the other thing, Dookie Howser.
Doogie Howser. That was a little before my time.
Yeah, he's a 12-year-old doctor. I mean, really?
Well, of course, that's not
something like that. I mean, there was just some bizarre kind of a thing. But Doogie was nice to everybody.
Yes, he certainly was. You'd have to be, I suppose.
Yeah.
Being a child.
Well, I guess at 12 years old, you have the energy to do residency. So there you go.
No, yeah.
Get it over with.
Fawn would not. Fawn's based on her personality. She could never be a doctor.
No, I could
she
never
needs too
do
much
it.
sleep.
Yep. Everyone's always like, why don't you become a doctor? It's like, if I get 6 hours of sleep, I'm miserable. I can't even imagine trying to operate on 3 or 4 for weeks at a time.
God.
No, I would not do well. I would not.
Yeah. But it's not that way now. It's not, the residency's not that way.
No, they stopped that?
Oh, yeah, they stopped that. You might get one night where you're busy, but then you leave the next morning. They have these hour restrictions as to how long you can be at the hospital.
It's about time.
Yeah, it's about time. But the reality is that the whole part about residency, it's supposed to create a protected stress environment so you can respond under stress. Because when you're out in practice and you have a busy practice and you have 2 or 3 sick patients all at once that you have to take care of, I mean, you're
Right.
thing. But
It's
there's-
like, and I get that, but what I don't get is like sleep deprivation for 2 weeks.
No, that makes
and then
no
you end up
sense.
with tons of
No.
medical error, and the hospital gets sued, and
Yeah.
people die. It's just like, it's
oh,
too
that,
far.
I didn't see that.
No, I'm sure, but it's
that's
entirely
that's a risk.
realistic.
Yeah. So anyhow, but the other thing about medicine, it's gone to shift work a lot.
That is true.
It's a lot of and
Yep.
and in some ways that probably is a good thing, where all the hospital internists are on shift work,
Yep.
ER doctors are on shift.
All of our
work.
doctors are like, they're at this practice, Tuesday, Thursday, and this practice over on Monday. They're off Wednesday.
Yeah.
But then they can also, kind of move around as needed.
And they have the ancillary staff that are taking care of questions.
Yep.
So they're not working all the time.
Right. It's questions always go to the nurses now, and then the nurses forward them to the doctor if necessary.
That's right.
I have to ask you a question about politicians trying to act like normal people. There was an example of it yesterday, and it just failed miserably. Chuck Schumer just wanted to show everybody what a regular guy he is.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
You saw it?
Yeah, he was grilling.
He was grilling.
It was
Now you can start by saying he was grilling, but only the center of the grill was turned on. The other two to the left and right were not even on.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of hamburgers on the grill. So all you see is the raw hamburger patty.
yeah.
And he put a piece of cheese on a raw hamburger patty.
Yeah.
He thought you made cheeseburgers by putting it together and then cooking it.
No.
What?
Oh, yeah. There
I mean,
you go.
someone like him has never cooked probably in the past
No.
50 years.
No way.
Once you made it like that, you don't cook anymore.
Yeah, well, if they're
you have
gonna do a-
people cooking for you.
They could do a photo up. They should at least have some sort of a coach
Well,
there.
that's the thing. It's like, yeah, have someone set up the scene first and then do the photo. Don't try to like wing it and be like, oh yeah, I can do what the commoners do. Peasant work, that's easy.
The peasant work. That's a good way of putting it.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, how do you not know you wouldn't put cheese? I mean, looking at the meat and the cheese, this cheese is about
It's gonna melt.
1/10
Yeah.
as thick
So
as
it's
the bird.
Kind of get a little burned.
yeah. You got more. It's going to go away.
Well,
It just melts.
maybe it's a new thing. It's the Schumer style. You encase it in a burned husk of cheese.
Maybe.
It's like crunchy on the outside, juicy on the inside. There you go.
I suppose that's probably true.
That's what he was going
Well,
for.
what an odd. Well, yeah, right. They're trying to. They're pandering to the common folk. Look, I'm just like you. I'm just like you.
That is exactly what's
I
going
put a
on.
hard hat on and walk into that construction site just like you.
My favorite one of those was it Hillary Clinton talking about how she always carries a bottle of hot sauce in her purse with her wherever she goes.
Oh yeah, that
She was talking to a Latino audience, and she was like, "Oh, I always carry hot sauce everywhere." It's like, yeah, I bet you do.
I bet you do.
You look like someone who chugs hot sauce. Speaking of hot sauce connoisseurs,
Hey,
Here he is.
Jimmy
Here's our
Lambert.
hot sauce. Our hot
Yeah.
sauce. He's just our hot sauce.
he's the hot sauce on
I
the.
will say that I do have a preference though with the sorts of hot sauces that I use. For example, when I go through Taco Bell, I have to get the breakfast salsa because that's just much better than the regular stuff.
Huh.
Just a little tip. It's more like real salsa. I don't like the flavor of the Taco Bell salsa. I don't know why am I plugging Taco Bell? I don't know. You're talking hot sauce. Why are you talking hot sauce?
Because
We're talking about politicians trying to look human.
Pandering?
Yes.
Pretending like they're people.
We were talking about the Chuck Schumer hot hamburger thing. If you've heard of that,
No, what's going on?
he did a staged photo of him grilling burgers, but he put the cheese on the raw burger and then put that on the grill. So, by the time the burger's done grilling,
How
the cheese is
do-
just completely not.
How do
There.
you have no idea?
I know.
How, like literally,
true.
have
Well, I
you
mean,
never
when did he
been
get-
around a person?
He probably got into politics when he was 8 years old. He's probably got into politics during the Civil War.
Yeah.
Let's go back to kissing babies. Isn't that the standard? Just kiss
Yep.
babies.
Yeah, went to Harvard and Harvard Law, of course. So I'm sure he was a legacy. It's just these people don't have any real life experience.
No, they don't.
Is he a wealthy guy?
Google
Very wealthy.
Schumer.
Google Schumer Building of Arts or something. See if his name is on a building.
Yeah.
Meaning that a predecessor's, a forefather's name is on a building. That'll tell you right there. Isn't that how it works? Generally, you buy a building for somebody,
Yeah.
and it
Yep.
gets yeah.
You buy a hospital wing these days.
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
probably true.
it's the money does sort of talk and get you in. It's I don't know. You see that so frequently, and what are you gonna say? It happens. It continues to go on. Everybody denies it, but it still goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So a legacy comes in. Yeah, sure, and they get them through. It's like sport. Well, not a lot. So like a lot of the kids that are college athletes, some of them do very well, but some of them really need a lot of help and coaching to get through their academic portion of their career.
Because they're not expected to be smart. They're expected to be good at their sport.
That's right.
And that every book you read is another 2 hours that you're not practicing throwing a ball.
That's right.
Yeah. The brutal honesty of this show.
It's true.
Brutal honesty.
Unfortunately, I think we should go back. What's the quote? I need to find a quote that I think that we should live by again. You can keep talking.
So you look at college sports, and more and more, it's an entertainment arm of the university. It has really nothing to do with education and preparing people for a workplace or anything like that. It's entertainment.
It's a revenue generator. I mean, and then on top of that, I mean, how much money do universities make on merchandising? And mainly it's connected to sports. I mean, we can all get that University of Minnesota sweatshirt or whatever, but I think it's by and large, it's a. But don't they get their money from boosters too? Boosters.
Yeah, they get donations from other people. But how much does that revenue go to education, or does it go to funding other entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the women's sports, other ancillary sports besides football, besides baseball, depending on the school you're at, basketball, for UConn, things like that. How much does that really end up in education purposes? So really, it's more of an entertainment engine.
Well, yeah, of course, it's like every $100 we spend on our football team, we get back 150. So why not put that 150 back into the football team? Now we're going to spend 250 and we're going to get 400 or however that maths out. And
those, that money that comes back, I don't know that it really goes into the professors and things like that. That's no,
I'm sure almost none of it.
Almost none of it. Tim, I asked a question earlier.
Yeah.
Because it came up on the morning show. A lot of series. Starting over in Europe, probably England, there are 6 shows in one season. Endeavor, another British show, there are 3 to 4 episodes in one season. But a lot of people are talking now that the 8-season shows in America, a lot of people want them stretched out to 12, 14, 16 episodes. Do you think that's actually going to happen?
Well, I mean, if you look back at the broadcast model, do you remember when seasons used to be at least 24, 26?
Yep, they were.
I mean, and why not? I think with streaming, and this is just speculation here, but obviously we all know that nothing is guaranteed a hit. So maybe it's a safe way of going with the 8 to 10 by saying, and the other thing is too, I mean, these shows are so expensive to produce. I was reading that's $11 million per episode for The Boys, which started with season 4. Huge hit for Amazon, but it's only 8 episodes. Yep. So that's $88 million. How much did it cost to produce those 24, 26 episode, one camera sitcoms back in the day? Just a teeny portion of that. So,
well, except for the fact that I was talking about Friends earlier, that we're getting paid like what, $500,000 each per episode, something like that.
$1 million.
Yeah. So if you take their salary out of the account, then yes, it's extremely cheap to produce those. But God, they were making so much money,
which I think is so obnoxious.
It's dumb how much they were making.
Well, it's the argument, just like sports. Well, if we don't get the money, then the owners get the money. And that's kind of been the argument all along. Now, the studios, the TV, the network is going to get it if we don't, and we're the ones they're watching.
I suppose that's, technically true, but I don't know. I think there should just be like do the Keanu Reeves thing. Just distribute it to the camera operators and the boom mic operators and so forth. Because that's what Keanu Reeves did.
Yeah, he did.
Gandolfini did it too with The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
God, I miss him.
Yeah, and there is going to be, I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to be on Max. It premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, and pretty much everybody that's still alive showed up there. A documentary on the making of The Sopranos.
Oh, love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and David Chase was there. They did like a Q&A at Tribeca last week, and everybody was there. So yeah, but you know what? My late father loved The Sopranos, and it was a big Gandolfini fan. Again, A, because he loved the show and he loved Tony Soprano, but B, because when he did get that big raise, he distributed the wealth.
Yeah. Yep.
What a stand-up guy, man. Jeez, how old was he? 51, 52? He had a
Yeah. Wasn't
heart
very
attack.
old. I think he was with his son when he died, wasn't he? I think.
Who are we talking about?
James Gandolfini.
That's what I thought.
I don't know if he was with him, but
Oh, yeah,
I
he
think
was only
they were on
50 or something.
vacation somewhere when it happened.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Rome, yes.
He was in Rome. Yeah.
And then
what
Michael played the young Tony in The Saints of Many Newark, which I know Tommy at least hated.
yeah.
A lot of people did. A lot of people didn't like that movie.
His 14-year-old son discovered him unconscious at
Oh.
10 p.m. on the hotel room's bathroom floor.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
Yes, some
terrible.
son found him.
That
Yep.
is so terrible, man.
Well, apparently he did a little bit of imbibing
No.
in his day. So
yeah.
Oh, well, that's a shame. That's
Little
a
Yeah.
shame.
squealing.
apparently he would miss shoots because he was just so drunk he couldn't get
Really?
on set.
Oh, that's what killed him then.
Yeah, that'll do it. You got to be careful with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's too bad that stories like that have to come out. I mean, they're pissing
Yeah.
on the guy's memory. And a lot of times, is it really even true? I mean,
Well, true. Yeah.
there were, I should say, stories that, I don't know, again, just people thrive on negativity, but Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, he sunk $120 million of his own money into this sci-fi epic that he's doing, and it finally landed a U.S. distributor yesterday, Lionsgate, so we'll see it at the end of September. But there were stories coming out a day or two before where people claimed unnamed sources. That unnamed sources crap. Never buy it.
I don't trust anonymous sources ever.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they were saying he was misbehaving on set and he was in his trailer getting high. The dude is 85. Really?
Right.
He's in his trailer getting high for hours on end.
I'm sure he's popping pills, but they're probably digitalis, not any.
Well, and then they said, well, he was pulling the female employees, actors, whatever. He was sitting in his director's chair and pulling them on and having them sit on his lap and stuff. He's 85. Give the guy a break. And you know what? Aubrey Plaza, who's really a great actor, by the way, I think she is. She defended him. She said, this is BS. She says, you know what, though? People want to see his films be a disaster because Apocalypse Now was a disaster to make, but look at how that turned out.
Yeah.
And that was all because of things that were out of control. Plus, he had Marlon Brando, which is
With Marlon.
Marlon was one of those guys who always refused to come out of his trailer. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to the movie, and look at how when you see a movie like a show like The Offer, a lot of times it doesn't have to do with the director. He was a director for hire on that picture, and look at how difficult that was to get to make. The Godfather. You know, when you see The Offer, movies are difficult. That's just the nature of things.
Is that why the Sopranos are going to be done that way? Because The Offer was such a big hit?
Oh, you mean actually, no, this is a documentary.
Oh, it's not a series.
Yeah, it's not,
Oh,
okay. No, it might be a docu-series, but it's interviews with David Chase and everybody involved. I think we just talked about this recently. I would love to see more series about the making of films and stuff like that. I just think that's fascinating. That's really fast. Whether people agree or not, with what happened. And there were disputes about The Offer, and, Peter Bart was a producer on it now, and he turned into a film critic. And he, during the series, was saying, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Well, you're one person, you're one person's point of view, so
Yeah.
it was entertaining, man. And I think a lot of it probably was true,
David Chase did Vice in Baltimore, didn't he? Wasn't that the name of the show, Vice, or was it something else?
I think he did. You must have interviewed him, right?
Yeah. Yep. Back in the day.
Let me look up this.
I think because he said something really great to the mayor of Baltimore. It was a great quote, and I was very proud of him, no question.
What did he say?
Well, I think, the show is obviously about a lot of thugs and hoodlums and crooks and all the rest of it, and it took place in Baltimore. After a season or two, the mayor of Baltimore decided he didn't want Baltimore looking like that on national television. So he gets a hold of David Chase in public, which was a huge mistake.
No.
That was a huge mistake. Publicly talking to David Chase about it, he goes, I don't like the way you're portraying Baltimore on your show. And I really think you should do something. You need to clean it up quite a bit because I just don't like Baltimore looking that bad. And David Chase responded and said, yeah, I understand what you're saying. What I'm going to do probably is I'll move the show to another town, like maybe the worst city I can possibly find. And I'm going to say it's Baltimore anyway.
Okay.
Cold.
that was cool. Well done, though. Well,
I talked to David Chase for a 2012 film, which Gandolfini was actually a supporting actor in it, called Not Fade Away. It was a film about music.
Yeah. Yep.
A group. And oddly enough, David Chase, I was telling him how much I love it because I was a drummer. David Chase said I was a drummer. Tommy, weren't you a drummer too?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I mentioned, obviously, I'm in Minnesota and brought up my dad. And he said, oh, yeah, I produced a movie called Off the Minnesota Strip, which was in 1980. And I'm looking at the description right now. A teenage runaway attempts to readjust her home and family life in Minnesota after returning home after years of working the streets of New York City as a hooker. So that was his Minnesota contribution. I don't think it was filmed maybe part of it was filmed in Minnesota.
Yeah, maybe.
But Chase has been around a long time, man.
Yeah, he is.
A long time. I mean, people think about him with The Sopranos, but my God, he's been around forever.
Did he put Minnesota in a good light, or did he?
Probably not. Well, you know what? When you go from New York City and the Strip to back home to Minnesota, I think Minnesota's going to look better. So I can't ever recall seeing the movie. So that's a good one, Ralph. I'll have to look it up.
That's right. So 35 Below. And did he just focus on 35 Below and other kinds of books and, that sort of stuff? I know.
Problem is, when you want that 35 Below weather on film, you're never going to get it. Sam Raimi filmed The Simple Plan in Delano, and he had to move the production. He did a lot of it in Delano, but he actually had to move the production to Ashland, Wisconsin for the snow scenes because there was snow that winter.
You know, Josh did my son did a commercial for Go-Gurt, and it was a 4 or 5 day shoot. Started in the desert, and then it ended. They needed some cold scenes. It was a dichotomy between the desert and cold scenes, and they did a lot of the cold scenes in one of the commercial freezing units in Burbank. So they took over this, set up a soundstage inside the freezing unit. So you see people's, you see the vapor from their mouth as they breathe. You know, they had all the cold that they wanted and that sort of stuff. But they needed an outdoor scene in the snow. And it was outdoors, and it was 95 to 100 degrees, full sun on an asphalt parking lot. And they brought in enough block ice to shave and blow on there to get this walking scene of these boots walking across snow out there. It was Hollywood can do anything, and it was real snow. It wasn't the fake stuff. It was the real. They shaved the ice and just blew it out onto the pavement. Whew.
Yeah, well, I think they did actually bring in some snowmakers for some scenes, like Billy Bob Thornton's apartment and stuff. I mean, outside of the exteriors, the sets or whatever, the buildings. But if you remember A Simple Plan, the late great Bill Paxton, just loved the guy. It was him and Billy Bob, and I think one other guy it was about a downed plane that had cash in it from a drug dealer or something. So they needed that to be in a remote spot. And I don't know if they actually did that one in Minnesota or not, but I know that they had to move part of the production to Wisconsin. Northern is Ashland northern? I think it is northern.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out, But that's why a lot of productions are in Canada, because A, they're cheaper, and B, I would imagine that
You always
further
get
up north, you always get snow.
Wasn't
Exactly.
the last season of that show you were talking about, that was all filmed in Canada, wasn't it? It's supposed to be Minnesota, but it was all filmed in Canada.
Yeah, most of them are. Well, and what was really funny about Fargo you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Fargo. There was a scene where now Ham's character was from North Dakota.
Yeah.
Okay, but the show, I believe, was set in Minnesota. But at one point he's talking Minnesota. I thought he was talking Minnesota towns, but he mentions Waverly.
Oh, does he really?
Huh.
He does. I think it's in the first episode or something. And it's like, okay, that's really curious. It's funny how Minnesota references pop up all the time.
Yeah.
Films and TV shows. Just it's like, where's the connection there? Like in that film that with Casey Affleck, what was it? Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, yeah.
It's one thing to mention Minnesota, but another thing to mention, the other brothers in Minnetonka, Minnesota.
Yeah, they do that.
Hey, there's got to be some sort of connection to grab. I mean, if you say Minneapolis, that's one thing, but Minnetonka, even for a Hollywood production, is just way too specific. So I would imagine, there's some sort of connection there somewhere. Script supervisor who throws it in there. Hey, I'm from Minnesota. I'm going to put Minnesota in there. Yeah,
it's a possibility. Any good stuff coming up that's not been released yet?
What about Inside Out 2?
So
Oh, that's right.
I thought it was
not on Saturday.
terrific. Alex, you loved it.
It was fabulous. It was just like, I didn't cry, I don't think at all, which is rare for me.
It's about puberty, or is it after puberty?
It's about the beginning of puberty.
So it's right after 1 then, basically.
Not
much.
really. The number one is she was younger, but I think this is why this is a great sequel, because people keep developing these emotions as they get older, and once puberty hits, then anxiety sets in, and all these teenage emotions, boredom, embarrassment. I don't know why they had to go with the one emotion and call it ennui.
Ennui.
Yeah, that was
which is boredom. Just call the thing boredom. I don't
But it's
understand.
not.
It's existential dread, technically, is what it is.
Yeah, it's
Ennui.
more of just.
It's like the feeling that you're insignificant in the unit. It's like it's nihilism plus
well, and
existentialism.
in the movie, it's more portrayed as like indifference,
like apathy.
Yeah, kind of like apathy, where it's like she's like envy
ennui,
is talking, like envy's the emotion controlling her, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool, it's so exciting, it's so amazing, and then all of a sudden ennui is like takes over, and then she's like, whatever, it's whatever, I don't really care.
On the character poster it says ennui, but then in parentheses underneath it says, which means boredom.
No, they should just call it apathy or something like that.
Oh yeah, that might have been a good one. But I would imagine, I mean, I was going to say, well, you want younger viewers to understand too. So I guess they understand the character by the way the character acts, and not necessarily.
Yeah. And my kids both absolutely loved it. We saw If when it came out, that
didn't get much fanfare, did it?
I really liked it as a parent. I cried 4 times. I loved it. I thought it was great. I think it would be really good for kids like 9 to 12.
Like once they get over their imaginary friends,
kind of. Yeah. And like Fawn, I took Fawn and her 2 friends for her birthday. That was like her birthday outing she wanted to do, and each of them a few times during the movie went, when is it over? Which isn't like it's not a good sign. And then the big twist, there's a twist at the end. None of them got it.
Oh yeah.
And they're all 8. None of them had. In the car I was like, did you realize at the end what happened? And they were like, what? No, no, that's not right. And I was like, yeah. And so I think it's for older kids.
Yeah, it definitely, and for adults too, though, because I mean, it was me and my wife and my younger son who is going to be 24, and we all were pretty like, wow, this is, I mean, you can relate to it. It really, and none of us had, that's the whole thing. They kind of go with this whole premise of everybody had an imaginary friend. Not really.
No,
I
don't
don't
think I
know many
did.
people that did.
I don't think I did.
Well,
Fawn did. Her name was
yeah?
Alice Nugest.
Huh.
She was an opera singer.
Well, there you go. Well, yeah, it's like Inside Out had Bing Bong.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that was what's the girl's name?
Riley.
Riley. That's Riley's imaginary
Yeah,
friend was
Bing
Bing
Bong.
Bong, and
Riley Anderson from Minnesota, which
Minnesota.
again,
Yep,
because
Minnesota.
of Pete Doctor
Yeah.
from Minnesota who moved to San Francisco. So the whole thing is kind of based on, I think, his daughter in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't as emotional as the first
Nope.
one. Like I didn't cry, which I cry in every movie that there's potential for crying. But it was very, very sweet. And the whole premise of the movie is kind of moving on from just the main emotion being joy when you're a child, and then all the other emotions kind of taking
That's
control
true.
and then having them all create balance, who creates who she is, and like that matters.
Yeah, joy and sadness being the two emotions that matter definitely resonates with me now that I have
Yeah.
a toddler,
Mhm.
because those are the two things he feels.
Yes.
If he's
Wow.
not running
Yeah.
around screaming and laughing, he's crying.
Yeah, and then anger and fear are sometimes
Anger
in there.
sometimes, but
Like they're sometimes in there.
sometimes,
Yeah,
but not as
but
much.
not as much. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the key for this movie is joy all of a sudden is suppressed by anxiety. Can you hear that phone?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Hello. Yeah, anxiety just comes in and just takes over. She's like, I've
Whoa,
got
bill
this. I know
collector.
exactly what to do.
Yeah.
No,
sounds
no, it's
about
my
right.
son. I don't know what's going on. Why he's right
Hello.
downstairs.
And she's 13, you said?
What's that?
She's just 13.
Yeah,
in
she
the
just
movie?
turned 13.
Yeah, so that's about the age when you start getting anxious about everything.
Yep, she's got. I know. Well, it was funny too because like neither of my kids knew what anxiety was. We were in the car and Sage was
Yeah,
like,
they're
"What's
not-
anxiety?"
Not really
Right.
gonna for a while.
But it's interesting because one of Fawn's friends, who's 9, watched the trailer and she said to her mom, "She's 13 and she's just getting anxiety. It's like my main emotion."
Oh, that's not
well, I mean,
good.
Ethan definitely, he's only 2 and he's definitely like the separation anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, that's a form of anxiety.
But it's not-
definitely something he feels.
Well, and like the anxiety in the movie is them like she's like, I have to plan for every potential outcome.
Right.
And because that's generally what anxiety is. But like, because separation anxiety is just like,
It's
I don't
more
want
like-
you away from me.
Yeah. It's
It makes me sad.
like an extension of fear. Kind
Yeah,
of. It's like you're
basically.
afraid that your parents are gonna go
Not
away.
come back.
Mhm.
Like that's the one potential outcome. But like anxiety, she has like all these different workers coming up with potential outcomes of every situation.
Mhm.
It's funny because like I know people that work like that.
Yep.
Like every situation, it's here's all the things that could happen. And I am constantly telling my kids, I'm like, be where you're at. Like just look at where you are and what can you control and what is going on right now, because there's no sense in worrying about what's could happen because so many things like the house could combust and like that could happen. It's not likely going to, but it's a
You got to
possibility.
put a proportional amount of effort into it.
Yeah.
It's like if you're worried about the house setting on fire, buy a fire extinguisher, and there you go. You just don't worry about it too much after
Yeah,
that.
because it's like you could constantly be sitting there thinking about all the things
And
that could
a
happen
lot of people are like that.
all of the time.
Surgeons are like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you're doing surgery, there's 1,000 decisions, and you're, to a certain extent, you're always going through all of those sort of scenarios. So,
That could happen. Yeah.
Yep.
I know, but it's interesting too, because it's like, I know somebody that has quite intense anxiety and he
Is
you know,
named Andy.
get it. Well, there
His
is that.
name is Andy.
But it's interesting because he's so anxious about things that you really shouldn't be that worried about.
A lot of people are like that.
It's like, don't get on a city bus because one time this person took a machete and tried to attack people.
Yeah.
That's why you can't get on a city bus. And like had his wife swear that you would never get on a city bus. But then he can get in a car and drive around. But like you're way more likely to die in a car accident than you are to get
macheted
on a city bus.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
In the past, that was called prejudicial. You're prejudging things.
Yeah.
You're
true.
prejudging things, and that was a bad thing.
Well, yeah, it's like moms who let their kid ride around a bike without a helmet, but then they send their kid to school with an armored backpack. It's like,
Yeah.
Right.
get some proportionality in your life.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Get some risk assessment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People are very bad at risk assessment.
they are.
That is going to do it for we got the whole hour in there. Do you believe that? We filled it up. Tim,
Oh, wait.
everything okay?
We're at 59.
Yeah. Well, I'm just texting. I got to get going. I got to figure out what's going on with the phone.
Yeah,
calls.
absolutely. All right.
All righty. We'll talk to you Friday.
Take care.
Sounds good.
Everybody have a great week.
Tim Lammers, ladies and gentlemen. Alex,
I have good news.
what's the news?
My car can be fixed and it'll be done next Friday.
Well, there you
Look
go.
at that.
And
When's
I have
mine
a
gonna be
really
fixed?
nice Jeep Grand Cherokee plug-in hybrid rental. Super nice.
There you
I
go.
wouldn't. That would be like the last vehicle I would assume would get a plug-in hybrid
Yeah,
version.
it's a plug-in hybrid.
Those
I
are
haven't
huge,
used,
aren't they?
It's pretty big. It's not a
It's not a Wagoneer.
it's not a full-size SUV. It's only 2 rows, but the
Oh.
trunk space is
Huh.
quite large.
Hmm.
How far will it go on the plug-in?
So far, that's a really great question. So I have driven from my house to Shakopee, and then from Shakopee to here, and the battery's at 30%.
Okay.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's about our plug-in hybrid. The minivan gets up 35 miles on the
I was
battery.
gonna say, yeah, it's probably around like 30-ish miles would be my guess. Which, like, in a normal day, I wouldn't drive more
Yeah,
than
it's
that.
about what you drive in a day, like a full day.
I mean, today I'm driving around a lot because of Sage has camp, and then I have to bring Fawn to my mother-in-law's condo, and then I'm going back home, and then I'm going back to pick up Fawn, and then Fawn has dance. So I'm driving around a lot today. But if it were a day where it's just like I just have to drop the kids off at school, come here, go,
Yeah,
To
no,
school.
No gas needed.
wouldn't need to use any gas. But this isn't an option for our car that we're going to purchase because it doesn't have 3 rows. But I like it.
There you go.
Yep.
All right, that does it. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Got a picture in my noggin reminds me of this one was before. Every time I hear the singing reminds me how you talking